Evening, everyone. This is the Ayer Conservation Commission meeting. It is Thursday, May 22nd, 2025. Commissioners in attendance, we have Jenna Maya as member, George Bacon as member, Jess Gugino, member clerk, Mark Phillips, vice chair, Heather Hampson, our conservation agent, and myself, John Schmallenberger, as chair. Confirmation of agenda.
No changes to the agenda.
All right, motion to approve the agenda as written.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, passes unanimously. Do we have meeting minutes?
Yeah, I didn't get those.
Ah.
And I forgot to mention it to you last night, Jess. I apologize.
Oh, I did them.
I'm sure you did. I double checked my emails and I didn't have them. So I'm like, I did have a change of the agenda. I don't have minutes.
Oops.
You've had things on your mind, Jess.
No minutes tonight.
Table till next meeting.
Tabled next meeting. Well, we have 30 days according to
Oh,
the
we
open
have plenty of
meeting
time
law.
now. YouTube's for.
All righty, then we
I'm
will
due
put off,
tonight by
I'm
3
putting,
a.m.
I know. I'll get them tonight at midnight.
we'll put off approving the meeting minutes of May 8th, 2025 until our next meeting.
Yeah.
There is no one in the gallery, so no public input, which, can we discuss this in office updates?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Our first item this evening is the continued request for determination of applicability. Luis Perez, 135 Oak Ridge Drive, and he has withdrawn his application.
Correct. Yeah. He came in last week. Yeah, I know last week before our scheduled site visit to state that he was withdrawing his application due to cost, whether that was cost of what he's doing to his house as far as renovations, or the cost of what he wanted to do on the backside. I don't know, but he's withdrawn it and he's gonna wait.
Okay. So, do we have to do anything?
No, we don't. It was on the agenda from the last
Okay.
meeting. We had everything, so I just wanted to put it on there in case
yeah.
anybody showed up or was questioning why it just disappeared.
Very good. Okay.
And
Put
if
it
we
on
ever
there.
get another set of minutes to approve, it'll be in there.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Okay.
Request for partial certificate of compliance.
Yes.
DEP file number 100-0234. That's been a while ago.
It has been a while. It was approved in 2003. This is for the DEP numbers for the entire subdivision up
Okay.
there on Moon Hill, Orchid, Sunflower Court, that whole subdivision.
Right.
This particular lot is a closing on the day of our next meeting. I think it's the 12th. And it came up in the title search. There's an open order of conditions. This lot has no wetlands on it. It's been built on. If you look at the aerial, it's got this weird, looks like staged porch deck in the back. I'm assuming all of the order was basically for everything on the Long Pond side.
Mm-hmm.
So the woman I spoke with, I think she's on the condo association for that property. That we'll have to figure out how to getting it close. Hey, look at that. What is that?
Is that it, or is this it?
That might be it. I'll look at that one, but that probably drew my attention. Anyway, we'll have to figure out how to get the whole thing closed out at some point, because I think this is the second or third time. This might be the third partial that the board has issued.
Yep.
For properties not within within the buffer. So the people are relocating from a different, I don't know, from a different state or different part of the state. So I just didn't want to hold them up by not having the order issued.
Yep.
Is this whole
Okay.
thing part of the development?
Yeah, this whole thing is, and so it's just this part that fell into
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Okay.
I did the flood plan. I put the GIS on there. That nothing came up on this lot. Anything in there close, and everything behind this property is in the open space part of the approval of the subdivision that's held by the condo association. So
Cool.
Do you know how many houses are back in there?
I don't.
I mean, is there a bunch?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There is. We've issued one before. I looked in the file for Iris Ave.
Uh-huh.
There's a partial issued for that one a while back. So I'm assuming this has happened before.
Yeah.
And these things only trigger certain banks really get hung up on the orders and conditions, even if it's the property's not on it. Not all of them do, so some of them slip through and other ones don't, and this one's getting hung up, and I don't wanna
Okay,
hang anybody up just for,
sure.
There's like 40-ish houses.
yeah.
So for closing out, I mean, they tried to close it out like over 10 years ago or so.
Yeah, I
right?
have it, I pulled it out and I saw that
There
there
were
was a
some,
request in there.
there were some, do you remember, George? I think there were outstanding issues and there was no longer a developer that gone bankrupt or left or gone out of business. There wasn't a responsible party anymore.
Right.
It wasn't
Yeah.
even that long ago either, I found it, I don't know if it might have been in the paper.
Yeah.
Might not have been in the paper file, might have been in the, electronic file, and I saw that there was a request, nothing ever done with it,
Was that an order of conditions for the whole subdivision?
whole subdivision.
Okay. I think I remember the two of you mentioning that that's why you now do individual ones, right, because of that?
Mm.
Like you kind of went away from that, you were having issues?
They usually do it for the road, the utilities, and then they do one for individual lots.
Gotcha. Okay.
So this, cause yeah, it's all the older ones that this gets hung up on, newer ones it doesn't, so.
So what was in the order of condition for the whole subdivision then? Like, what was remaining to be open?
I don't know, because the files are not always well, oh, no, here it is, the request was in 2011. I'd have to go back through and read the minutes from that meeting to find out.
If there are minutes.
Yeah. No, there is some that are just missing, there are years that I just don't know. I don't, 2011 might be one of them, I don't know.
Sure.
What was the date on that one?
This was received from the commit on July 13th, 2011.
Okay.
So there's no reason to deny this, because they don't,
No, this one doesn't have any wetlands on it.
yeah.
Yeah.
You need to, have you been out there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You don't have an issue?
Yeah.
No?
Nope.
Anyone else have any discussion, questions?
Nope.
Is there a motion to grant a partial certificate of compliance? DEP file number 100-0234 for 19 Loon Hill Road.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes unanimously. All right. Discussion, air wetland bylaw regulations.
Okay. So my big folder of regulations that I have, and I can make copies of anything for you guys. I didn't know how much you wanted to get into this, but I know Jess, I think at the last meeting you mentioned, and I found right up in Arlington's regulations, section 8 of theirs has a whole section on conservation agent administrative review of minor projects or work. So did you mention something about having that put into the regulations about minor approvals?
Did I? I don't think so, but
Oh.
that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, no, so it was just one that I found,
Yeah.
that I specifically found like several pages of how it's spelled out. If anybody wants to review that, I can make copies of it. And then there are various towns that I have found that do their do not disturb areas in a staged form. The North Andover has it, Natick has it, Denham has it.
They do what in a stage form?
Westford, they do their do not disturb in a stage, so they'll do so many feet, do not disturb, no build. Yeah. And the one I found was interesting is Natick had they have 100-foot do not disturb around all vernal pools.
I'm sorry, what?
They have 100-foot do not disturb for vernal pools.
Is that enough?
I think the one that Mark had sent, Sturbridge, they actually have a 200-foot buffer. And that's starting to become like a thing. So there's, I think, a handful of towns that the Conservation Commission actually has a 200-foot buffer. I don't know how well that would pass here.
We don't have that many vernal pools.
No, I
either.
mean, but I mean, as far as for vernal pools, we could have it basically stated, you know, that it doesn't have to be a certified vernal pool.
Yeah.
It could have be vernal pool characteristics
Yeah.
and have it, and that's, we spelled out in the definitions, which we did I have a couple things for definitions, but our definitions are in our bylaws, so that'd be a fall town meeting thing.
What do we have now?
For what, vernal pools, the 50-foot. This would be a full 100. And if you remember when the West Main Street project was before us, that had a vernal pool on it. So there is some
The
around
housing
town.
slash business.
Yeah, the
thing.
mixed use, yeah, apartment building, that did have a vernal pool on it.
Obviously.
It's way in the back by the railroad lines, the railroad. But I mean, so whereas we don't have a lot of certified in town, we do have vernal pools in town, and more and more as we can hopefully get some of them certified. But I thought that was interesting to have to have that full do not disturb around a vernal pool.
Yeah.
The town of Denham, is it Denham? One of them did it as a way complicated, where it did it as far as like, depending on what the project was, changed what the do not disturb and no build was. So if
they
it
were
was
building
a,
park, you could be right next to it. Something like that.
let me see. I found it was really interesting.
Interesting good or just interesting?
It was
concept?
it was an interesting concept, I thought. So it took into account like slope and everything else into it. It was like a whole calculated thing. But like a single family house with accessories, accessories as utilities was 30 feet. A commercial was 40 feet. A paved parking lot was 50 feet. Gas station had a 75 foot. Those are just like examples, but it has a whole like calculation that gets involved in order to do it, depending on slope and what it is, which I think is very complicated. The town of Westford, the way they do it is, if it's a existing structure, it's a 30 feet for no touch, 55 for building. If it's an existing lot with structure and works proposed within paved areas, non-artificial lawn, it's 50 feet and 75, and then an undeveloped lot, it's 50 and 75. So they do it depending on if it's a developed lot already or a vacant lot.
Yeah.
No matter what we do, for almost anything, we're going to have that developed versus undeveloped.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because we typically don't do anything with, as it is now.
Right.
And then a couple other ones did it depending on if it's riverfront, vernal pool, what jurisdiction area are we looking at? Are we looking at vegetated wetlands? Are we looking at flood, so it depending on that. So it's something to think of. I was like, oh, I was surprised to see so many different variations of it instead of just a blanket like 50 and 50 and 75 no build. So I think that would make a difference when you're looking at passing it. What type of wetland you're looking at? You're looking at river front. Obviously, you have that 50. You have that 100-foot area, and then you're going in from there. And then if you're looking at borderland subject to flooding, you'd want to do something a little different there because everything's in the floodplain. So something to think about and look into further. But I wanted to just point some of those out to you and get your thoughts on if you want me to draft something up as far as giving you some more ones to look at, or what direction you might possibly want to go into changing that aspect of it.
A lot of the critters in those vernal pools, they venture fairly far.
Oh yeah, they do.
So you can't protect it.
You can't protect all of it,
Far
no.
away.
Oh gosh, no, you can't, because they right, it's all the frogs and salamanders are laying their eggs there,
Yeah.
and then it dries up and they go away, and then they come back the next year.
So mostly it's going to be based on what people can stomach. As far,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, I think, a matter too, when you look at where our vernal pools are,
Mm-hmm.
they are already probably in a wooded area, so I mean, I don't see, I think having a 100-foot do not disturb around vernal pools is fantastic.
Yep.
I'm okay with it.
I mean, you look at it like, yeah, so think in the 3 years I worked here in this position, the West Main Street was the only one we had that had a vernal pool come up on it. And then when we did delineation for Orion Park, that had one in it too, but that was already in the open, that vernal pool was in the open space.
Yep.
So if you went 100 feet off of that, you might go 20 feet that it's in the developed area, but the rest of it was the open space and the conservation restriction.
But to your point, the things that go there and lay their eggs, let's say, they travel a far distance. No difference than a turtle, right? So my development, they don't care what the surface is. They're trekking it. They go across it. They do what they want. They lay their eggs. They move on and they keep going. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you can do 300 feet. It doesn't really make a difference.
Doesn't matter.
So
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't think being that sort of critical and that limiting is really beneficial. We're already saying 50 feet from the edge of the vernal pool, we don't want you to do anything in case the pool were to expand,
Yeah.
whatever, right? So to me, I'm comfortable with that. I don't think we necessarily
Need to go larger.
crazy. Yeah.
Do things like frogs, their tadpoles return back to their tadpole pool?
Typically.
Egg laying, like a turtle.
Or
kind of
just,
thing?
yeah, I mean, I years and years ago, before I got on the commission,
Like a salmon.
back in Stratton Hill, there's that back pool with that dirt
Mhm.
pile.
Right.
That would fill with tadpoles, like thousands. And it would dry up so they'd be cooked. So I took a whole bunch and took them down to Sandy Pond.
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah. It was before I was on the commission. And then, that summer it was a slaughter on the road. I think they were all crossing the road heading back of frogs getting run over. And I think it was,
Whoops.
well, they had a little bit longer life than they would have.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna go to, I think they all go to where they hatch for the most part, because it's what they know. But,
Even little tadpole brains.
I mean, salamanders,
Turtles.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I learned something at the time, so.
I mean,
Best
there's always
intentions.
a bunch of, in this early spring when it rains, there's always a bunch of
Yeah.
frogs in the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this
Bullfrogs.
was an unusual year, and I think it's because I did that unusual thing. So, George wasn't there to tell me not to.
Did you have any other interesting standoutish?
Some things. Oh, so I flagged a bunch of stuff in Arlington. Arlington had a lot of good stuff. So yeah, they had the conservation section. They had a whole section dedicated to vegetation removal and replacement.
That's a good one.
I thought that was a good one. And then their section, they have, and the only one that I actually read through that had a detail, because I know we want to look at our variances, and figure out how we're going to reword that section of it. So I haven't really gone into too deep of a dive on the variances side. I think there was a couple that.
Would they be variances or waivers?
Waivers, variances, yeah. They call them variances. And then, of course, they also have their section on climate resiliency. Climate change resilience, which I find interesting. It's the only town that I found that has that in there, but of course Arlington is the largest regulation at like 80-something pages.
Yeah. Wow.
But again, a lot of these ones that are, 50 some odd pages or what, their definitions are in their regulations. Ours are in our bylaw. So I don't know what we're going to decide to do with that going forward. If we want to pull them out and put them in the regulations, or leave them and then just change them.
Don't some towns have them in the bylaws and then also have expanded ones in their regulations? More.
I have not seen that.
Okay. I'm trying to remember what we did. But
Yeah, no, it's every again.
yeah.
When you look through them, all the regulations are been revised every couple years and changed, and I think I even looked at Littleton, because that's where I used to be in Littleton, and theirs was done in 2019, changed in 2021, and changed again in 2023, so like they, you know, went through them multiple times.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
when we did our bylaw, we had to put definitions in the bylaw because we didn't have any regulations.
Yeah.
And the goal of the bylaw at that time was to get a bylaw.
Get a bylaw,
that
exactly.
lets write
Regulations, yep.
Yeah, so it was strategic.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly, yeah, so, I mean, I don't think it's an issue to go through, I mean, the zoning bylaw has the definitions, everyone was at the
Yeah.
town meeting and voted on changing those definitions, so I don't think it's an issue leaving them in there. There's just a couple definitions, I think we probably should go through them for fall and update them.
Yeah.
And add a couple things, whether it's, we had climate change in there, I found a couple other ones to add in there. Specifying floodplain, I mean, we have floodplain, but specifying some other things in there that we can look at and change.
I guess the only two things that I'd be interested in is, so the waiver we ended up granting for
Mm-hmm.
Main Street?
Pine Street,
Right.
yep.
I guess I'd like to somewhat make that more restrictive in the sense that if it wasn't for the fact that the sewer line was there.
Yes.
Internal, you know, the
Oh.
DPW saying, this is really gonna make it easier for us folks at the end of the day to, you know,
Yeah.
let them hop in these couple feet and connect.
Yep.
Versus something that maybe the developer is looking for a waiver for.
Yeah,
Because it's cheaper for them.
there
I
was,
could care less.
there was one that I found, yeah, there,
We can, but I
Mhm.
maybe somewhat having the definition as to, you know, waivers can be granted, you know, blah, 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 for, you know, whatever that specific purpose we want to call it, right?
yeah,
Like,
I wonder
Yeah.
if we want to say something about like cost waivers don't set precedent or something.
And we didn't put that in the waiver, we did.
Okay.
yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Make sure we have
But
that
like
in
if we
there.
have that,
Yeah, exactly.
that'll handle kind of what
Oh,
you're
yeah,
talking
here,
about.
this is it, so it's, yeah, North Andover, so,
Well, I guess I want to like notify the developers earlier on that,
Yeah.
you know, if you're coming in asking for a waiver just because it's gonna make it cheaper for you or make your property more appealing,
yeah.
I don't really care.
Yeah, so North Andover, so their waiver section for their no disturb zones, their first sentence is, a commission may grant a waiver for these regulations for alteration of a buffer zone resource area in the situations where there are no feasible alternatives that provide fewer impacts to the resource area values.
So you do that and then say regardless of
Yeah.
financial.
So basically, it states that they can grant a waiver
Yeah,
only if there's no other alternative.
But there was another alternative, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
There
was just
was,
really
but it just,
bad.
yeah, it was
Good
just.
one.
Or we could like add in a phrase like depending on pre-existing conditions as
But here,
well,
if you wanna
which,
see that, so North, as I know I found it somewhere, but North Andover, I think, North Andover, their waiver section is spelled out per their no disturb, their no build, and it's spelled out per section of their of their section, of their regulations, so I will probably pull something like that, so ours is staged like that, if we're gonna put that in there.
I haven't had a chance really to look into these more, because I've been,
Oh, when you start looking too, there's so many.
it's a rabbit hole.
There's a rabbit hole.
What I would suggest would be like you start putting together what you think the ideal ones
Mhm.
are for
Yeah.
us to work with,
Mhm.
a written copy.
Yeah, I said I
Yeah.
started doing that, and then yeah, Littleton did have a couple that I liked. They have a whole section for storage of fill and snow, basically saying that this snow cannot be put in the do not disturb area. A whole section on construction debris, saying it cannot be put within the construction debris, can't be stored within the buffer zone. Which I mean, I think ours, we already say stuff like that in our special conditions, but this is also like straight in their regulations as well. It's not just a condition, like it's you just can't. So I liked that section of theirs as well, to have those in there. And there was another town that had that dumpsters can't be located within the buffer zone.
Okay, yeah, I mean, those are potential toxic things, aren't they? Like seeping out.
And not just construction dumpsters, like just dumpsters
Yeah.
in general.
Right.
Where they
And then
were
that's where
before.
you would have your waiver, that someone have to actually request a waiver to, in a development, put their dumpster within that area. Should probably be granting a lot more waivers, or getting more waiver requests, I should say.
I guess I drank coffee like at 3 o'clock and it should have helped, but I just cannot wrap my brain around that. It's like, why are you even in a no disturb area? Like, and say, well, I can do this in a no disturb area and do 3 impacts, or I can do this in a no disturb area and do 1 impact. It's like, you can't do either as far as I'm concerned, so I don't really care. You know what I'm saying?
I know.
Okay, I like this. This is kind of what I was getting at.
Okay. Okay.
And I don't know if you want to, you can read it better than I can, so maybe so everybody else understands what it says. But it kind of describes like, no, this is prohibited, this is not happening. And it talks about it, it says,
Wetland alterations intended to make lands buildable as by fulfilling septic system setback requirements, flood elevation requirements, and other construction setback requirements, or to achieve minimum lot area requirements are prohibited. Wetland alterations are required to access upland parcels will not be allowed if the landowner landlocked the parcel by selling upland access. I mean, that's happened before.
that's kind of the stuff I'm getting. It's like, hey, if you put yourself in a corner, don't come to us and asking to be,
May
a way
require the
around
filing
it.
of
It's like,
requests for
no,
waiver.
too bad.
Right.
So the commission may require the filing of requests for a waiver of certain planning board and zoning board appeal requirements in order to minimize wetland map. So this basically says we can request them, make them go back to the planning board or ZBA for a waiver.
And to me, that kind of would have been Park Street. Right?
Yeah, no, I know, and that's like, I don't know if we can legally do that, but apparently they got away with it North Andover, so.
Look at him. He's just over there.
I have 2 contact spots.
Hi, yeah, okay. I mean, I'll definitely tear this one apart and, look at a couple other ones and see what I can find, but yeah, they had it for that, do not disturb areas, no builds in, no build zone, and vegetated wetland alterations, they have 3 different sections to their waiver.
That's kind of where I was going.
Okay. So but that basically states, the way that's written is basically like, we're not gonna grant you a waiver, you must go here.
Well,
Whereas then it goes
the
in.
one paragraph, the other paragraph, yeah, says you got to go to other boards, and
And then when that fails, so basically, what I'm guessing it's saying is when that fails, then that's when they come back to us and say, no, we tried that, so we have to do it this way.
still gonna say no. Like John
Waiver
said, we can
section.
still deny it. Right?
Yeah.
The other thing too, so as I was going through the McDonald's drive-through like 3 days ago or whatever, I looked at all the bittersweet that grew back after we asked them to fix that and make it somewhat nice. Can we put something in that says, if they, whichever developer, who's ever doing whatever, sort of takes out the invasives that keep them from coming back?
I can look into seeing if there's a way we can have as part of, like, maybe it's a condition, have a invasive management plan for the life of the property. I don't know if it's something necessarily we can force to, that's a town council question, I think, on that side, but it's something I can look into.
I just know like when we did also what's the one over there by the pond? The mill.
Shaker Mill Pond.
Thank you, Shaker Mill Pond. See, flushes of coffee didn't help. I remember Bonnie asked them, there was a whole bunch of knotweed, right? It's like, hey, can you rip this out? My assumption is since they were like really going crazy, they're like, they dug the whole thing right out. It's probably gone. But do we know that? And like, is it possibly coming back? And like, how can we
Yeah, and
keep
there's
it
a
from
thing
coming
where
back?
you've got a subdivision that's constructed and then the developer turns it over to a homeowners association.
Mm-hmm.
And invasives are I don't know how much we can, I mean, that would be a town council.
Yeah, it's a town, because
Yeah, I mean, I
because,
don't wanna go crazy, but
Yeah.
if there's something that we can
because
do,
I'm
it'd be
afraid
great.
on some of this, like bittersweet, whatever, it has the berries, right? If a bird just dropped it, like it started regrowing, like how do I?
Yeah, no, I get it, I'm just wondering.
Yeah, it's definitely a town council question, that we can look into. It's almost like a stormwater, you have a stormwater O&M plan. If it's something we can require, there'd be invasive plant, plan as part of like the landscaping or something like that. And I can talk to Danny about it too, about possibly looking at the planning board having something like that in their landscape, adding it into the, OSRD or something. I don't, again, probably not, but, I'm the type that it doesn't hurt to ask.
But invasive species too, that's gonna get worse as climate change gets worse
Correct.
too, so that's.
Yeah, I can talk to you about what happened at our workshop later.
You had your hand up, Rachel?
Oh, I just wanted to point out that sometimes people actively buy invasive plants.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Sure do.
when, bittersweet is something that's taken over, but, one thing I saw is like periwinkle, takes over the forest floor and then like kicks out all of the rest of the different indigenous species. So I don't know, because
Yeah.
it's considered invasive, like would that be?
There's a lot of ones that are considered invasive. There's not a lot that are considered illegal in the state. Like, I'm gonna assume 90% of the dogwoods you see are not native plants. So there's a
Well,
difference
like
between
burning
non.
bush is
Yeah, yeah. No, that's
acceptable.
that one's been illegal for a while. But there's a difference between invasive and then you have your non-natives, and then people interchange the two quite a bit. Not everything that's invasive is, or not everything that's non-native is invasive. So
Right, can you expand on that definition?
but non-native and invasive?
Yeah.
So a non-native plant, so like I said, there's native dogwoods and then there's non-native dogwoods.
Right.
Then you have, like, burning bush isn't really invasive, it's a non-native, but it's a bad non-native, probably assuming because of whatever disease or it can carry, because my mom's had one in her yard forever, and it's never gotten any, doesn't spread. But then you have like the invasives, like your um, bittersweet that just takes off and climbs. And you have really bad ones like mile-a-minute vine, and it gets its name because it legit will grow feet a day.
So invasive is like.
It chokes out the native.
Non-natives, but it's also aggressive and chokes
Yeah.
out. Okay.
Whereas non-native, such as a burning bush, while it's not native, it doesn't
It's bad.
hamper other things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
Japanese are not native.
Norwood maples.
Yeah.
And those are actually ended up being semi-invasive.
Are they?
Yeah, because if you look, their leaves are like twice the size of a regular maple, so they actually block and shade out all the other things below it, so nothing else can grow. And they keep their leaves longer, and they drop more seeds than any of the other ones. So they're greener longer, and they drop more seeds, so they actually choke out the native plants. So Norway maples are actually considered an invasive.
Yeah. Japanese are not.
No,
They're not native.
No, they're not native. Neither are lilacs.
Or cherry
Oaks are
trees.
taller than maples and they block out the sun too.
Hmm?
I said oaks are taller than maples and they block out the sun.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, and oaks keep their leaves too. But yeah, Norway maples are a
Interesting.
nasty one. But it's a whole tricky slope when you get to that aspect of native and non-native invasive.
Yeah. We went to this
Yeah,
seminar on Saturday?
Friday.
Friday. Yep. And it was very interesting. It was all on invasive
And it's-
critters, and I came away with going, I had no idea there were so many. So many. Way more than I thought.
Yep.
So there can be invasive native species.
No.
No.
Nothing that's native.
The
It's
Virginia
invasive.
creeper, isn't that?
They're not really. It's not really invasive.
Sounds like it should be.
It looks like it should be. People don't particularly like it. It grows with your poison ivy.
Yeah.
So like, if you look at, like, are you looking at poison ivy? Are you looking at the
Creeper's
Virginia
got
creeper?
leaves,
The five
right?
leaves, yeah, the palm leaf, the palm shape.
But
Um, but they're native.
Sorry, go.
No, usually when you're looking at it, you don't know if it's a butch
So
vine.
as we're talking about this, then the other thing that came to my mind too, so.
Yeah.
Maybe don't push it too much.
Uh-huh.
Because then, again, what are we doing in our conservation restriction areas where
Yeah.
you've got bittersweet everywhere in those things?
Mhm.
Good job on that. So,
Nobody is. That's
I'm
the one take.
trying.
That's the one. That'll be the one takeaway that I will say that I think was. I think it's helpful for some groups to hear when it comes to invasives, is if you try to work to eradicate it completely, you will get defeated and give up because you can't. Because as soon as you get rid of one, another one moves in. As soon as you think you got rid of that one, it'll sprout up somewhere else. All you can do is manage what you have and try to get it under control.
And that's kind of what I'm trying to do. It's like, okay, I don't want it to get anywhere else, but let's see if we can keep it here and keep it off this.
Mm-hmm. And that's the best you can. That's the best you can hope for.
The speaker at this seminar, he had a photo. It was from outer space, and you could see bittersweet
Bittersweet.
in the trees. You could see it.
Yeah.
It was that thick.
Well, if you've been down in
You're
North
not-
Carolina,
I saw it in DC.
Kudzu?
yeah, they actually have kudzu, and it is amazing, like how much it's gone crazy. And then on top of that, they also have some sort of a grass. I forget what it's called, but somebody brought it in as an ornamental. You know, those big tall grass with the puppies. Kind of looks like a phragmite,
Yep.
and it has spread throughout
Everywhere.
the state, and it's just like killing the fields, like it's going crazy.
Something. Huh?
So all invasives are non-native, but not all non-natives
Or invasive.
are invasive.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just getting my.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people interchange the words, and it can get confusing because they'll just say, "Oh, it's invasive." No, it's non-native. What? Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
That's
euonymus would be considered invasive, correct? Because it does creep euonymuses.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Okay.
It just so like when we're looking at like the site plan regulations of the planning board, they have a landscaping element. Me and Dan are talking about having changes to that to require that at least 50% of the planting plan has to be native plants.
I like that.
Some towns do have a more strict one. I think 50 is good. I think if we go more strict than that, people will get upset because then they can't have their lilacs, they can't have their weeping cherry trees, they're not going to have their pretty flowering ornamental plants in there. Yeah, so it's I understand. I love lilacs. They're my favorite. I would be sad if I didn't get to have any more of those. But you just want to see, when you have the option to have something that's very similar and that's a native, we should just be planting those.
Yeah. Marilyn went postal when the beavers were taking down our lilacs. Man, she went on a warpath.
John's got 3 new hats. No.
That's right.
113 and through Dunstable, there's one house that's got these huge lilacs. And this time of year, I'll roll my windows. I don't care how cold it is because you can just smell it.
Oh, yeah.
Favorite.
It is that and lilies of the valley are my two favorite. Hyacinths aren't bad either.
Hyacinths
Spring
are invasive,
smells.
aren't they?
Spring.
Or are they just non-native?
What?
Hyacinths, I thought those were invasive.
You're asking someone. You're asking you're asking your conservation agent. I'm not that great with my plants. I have. That's why I go to these things. I'm learning.
Oh, forsythias?
Forsythia, sorry. Did I say
Forsythias.
hyacinth? I did say it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not hyacinth. Forsythias,
Is it
right?
invasive?
It's invasive.
I thought those
Well,
were.
they get big. I don't know if they're like spreading.
They spread
They're
like
good at
weed.
spreading.
Are they?
They're
Oh.
really deep. They're good for keeping like erosion down.
Yeah.
But obviously they're not nice because they're invasive. Maybe.
That's what I
Yeah.
thought, yeah.
There are certain types of hyacinths that are particularly water hyacinths that are considered invasive species in many regions.
Yeah, no, I definitely misspoke. I didn't mean hyacinth. I meant forsythia.
Well, I just
Forsythia.
wanted to follow.
Okay, what about dandelions?
They're pretty.
My one neighbor, I think he planted them, literally. I couldn't believe all the dandelions he had on his lawn. I was just going. Right next to somebody that had a pristine lawn.
Yeah.
I mean, he must have had, like, every square inch of a dandelion. I could not believe the number of dandelions.
It's a food
Wow.
source, wine source.
It's What?
It's a food, can be a food source, dandelion greens.
Yeah, no, I know.
Make wine out of the flowers. Anyway,
Aren't they
Yeah.
is this to be continued?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
so I will pull together,
Put everything you want in.
yeah,
the
I'm
draft.
gonna pull together what I'm looking at as far as for, no build waivers and other little sections. I might just pull through 2 or 3, maybe 3 to 4 towns that I like, and then I'll bring those to the next meeting, and you guys can decide, and then we can start drafting it and having our public hearing on that. Because I don't see anything coming in, so might as well work on something.
Yeah.
If I have any input, I guess I would say,
We have one
and half the reason I'm
application.
on this commission, right?
Hmm?
I said, if I have any input on this, what I'd like to say is
Yes,
try to be nice to a homeowner that's already existing
yes,
versus
exactly.
coming in
No,
new.
I
Yeah.
think having the idea of having, because typically now what we do is we don't hold the existing landowners to that 50-foot no disturb so much. So I think having like a 30 to 35 for that would be good. With the idea that they can have waivers, right? So like some have already have a disturbed area and then they want to do something on it. It's like, well, it's already disturbed. Like you can with this waiver.
Agreed.
But then
yes.
a non-developed lot, then it's like another thing. We're like, oh, okay. Or a commercial property, we might do a little bit more stringent or something like that.
Right.
A pond or river versus I don't know, like ours intermittent streams go under our 100-foot buffer, so they don't follow the 200-foot. So I'll play around with it and see what I can find in other towns. But I think having a staged one is good. I just think we put a staged one. Because these are just the ones I pulled out when I first started. I haven't gone through and dug into other ones.
Yeah.
And I think almost every town has regulations now.
Yeah, I mean, I could potentially see going 0 waivers within the first 25 feet, possibly too. I mean, but if we tighten up our waiver, I think we might be just in a better spot anyways.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, and just add a couple sections in there as far as construction debris, dumpsters, snow storage, and stuff like that in there to have
Right,
it not be allowed in the 100-foot. I think that's a good thing to add in there. I don't think that's in ours now, and I think it's a good thing to have added in there. Just because then we're looking at the questions of conditioning we're not doing any salt treatment and stuff like that, and having maybe something like that added in there too. It's in the special conditions, but it's also like they already know they're not supposed to because it's in those regulations. It's already being reviewed, so it's almost like a double time.
Okay, yeah, because I was saying, I thought we already had that.
We have it in our condition. Yeah, we have it in our conditions, but I feel like if it's in those regulations, then
Yeah.
the engineer's already reviewing that when they're doing their proposal, so
stuff
they
like that
know
is
it's like,
totally
oh, we
fine.
can't even propose it. It's not going to come up in a meeting
Right.
as a question to have to change a plan.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're thinking, pulling stuff off the special condition, just make them a regulation.
Mhm.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because they're already in the special conditions anyway. Then it kind of gives it more teeth,
Exactly.
as it'll be in there twice, and it most likely won't even happen because they won't.
Yeah, and then you can reference the regulation, like in
Yeah.
parenthetical, and say per blah blah
Per,
blah.
yep, exactly.
Per blah blah blah.
I also think when we're like issuing an order of conditions for big projects, not for individual homeowners per
Mhm.
se, but subdivision type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think at that last meeting we have to sort of give the lecture of, yeah, we take these seriously. You need to follow them because there's so many who like just do it. Well, Park Street too.
Yeah.
Do what they want.
They
just, like,
don't. Yeah, they forget to review them. So I
they
always
never
try to.
bother and,
Yeah.
And then they come back to us when they mess up. and
Right.
say, Oops.
Yeah.
As they say.
I mean, we can always throw in that in the regulations with that do
We
not
should
disturb area that
stop
it
giving
has to be
forgiveness.
signed.
Yeah.
No more forgiveness from us.
Trying to do. That's what I'm trying to do.
Tear down that wall.
That's what I mentioned when I said, so nobody was reviewing the plans, nobody was watching them on a daily basis.
Yeah,
Kind of where I was going.
Well, and it was easy to blame someone who wasn't there, right? Well, we got rid of them. And
Mm-hmm. That's how it works.
Anything on regulations? Anything more on regulations right now?
I'm gonna just read through my notes because I had a couple. No, that's it. That's all I had in my notes. So yes, Arlington, North Andover, Natick, and Dedham are on my notes, and I went through those.
Conservation Office update?
The most exciting one, because I worked for a couple days on this to redo our table. We got our extension on our open space and recreation plan
Oh,
Nice.
for 3 years. I got that letter today.
oh,
So.
wait a minute. Did you ever hear from Beth?
Nope.
Okay.
I sent because I did find the spreadsheet with all of the goals. I sent it to Dan and Sarah at Parks to review to see, if they had any comments on them. Dan gave me back his comments. I never heard back from Sarah. I just went through and we had one in there for the hospital. I'm like, oh, I can delete that. So and there was a lot. They sent me Braintree's. Melissa from the state sent me Braintree, so I had a way because our table was not correct on how it should be set up. So I changed it around, and I just went, we have way too many goals and actions on here. I can delete some, and I deleted about 15 of them.
What's the expiration date now?
This letter says that we are. The town is eligible to apply for DCS grants through December 2030. Which I don't understand how that's whatever, because I thought it expired this year, and then 3 years would give us 2028. So I don't know. But anyway, we have like a year or two before, a year or so when we have to start looking into it, doing it again. But that's the same time the master plan will expire, so we can kind of like tag team it and do both at the same time.
Yeah.
So they both look the same, look similar and have similar goals and everything, and then they're not so different.
Yeah.
So that was fun. That was
Good job.
exciting to get that done. John and I went to that invasive plant management workshop at Nashua Watershed on Friday. They gave us a nice little handout to hopefully share with DPWs, and I'm going to see if Sarah at the parks wants it for any reason. It basically shows you how to management techniques for the good top 5, 6. The most common invasives.
Can you give the rest of us copies too?
I sure can, yeah, I'll scan it and I can give it to you.
I was gonna say, if you can scan it, can you just post it on?
The website, yes, 100%. Yep, you have your bittersweet, your multiflora rose, your Japanese barberry, buckthorn, glossy buckthorn, common buckthorn, autumn olive, burning bush, garlic mustard, black swallowwort, and Japanese knotweed.
Can I take a peek?
Yeah, it tells you how to
Yeah.
get rid of them, what time of year you can if they're young, when you can just pull them and get rid of them. So, and then what certain
Somebody's taking pictures.
yep, certain equipment you can use in order to do that. So, like I said, I'm gonna try to look at ordering one of the bear pullers for us to have in office so we can pull some. After the workshop on Monday, I went to go just for giggles to see what we have at Peroni Park. And we have the top 5, I think 5, I think there's Phragmites on there too. I was just discouraged by the other things I found. I didn't even scan it, but I'm pretty sure it's Phragmites. There's autumn olive, multiflora rose, bittersweet, and Japanese knotweed. All small enough, mostly, that I think we could pull it out with that tool once we have one, and then try to do some maintenance from there. But it will basically get rid of most of the shrubbery along shoreline along the perimeter path. Everything we planted, I think, last year with Nashua, I don't think survived. When I was there last week, Monday, it doesn't look it. So we'll have to do a huge invasive pull and then plant.
So that tool you were talking about, you said it takes out.
It'll take out. There's different sizes of the tool. So the largest they go is 2 inches.
To like caliper 2 inch.
Mm-hmm. The largest one will take out 2 inches. So.
Is there any like potential for a person injuring themselves doing that?
I have no idea. I'm not gonna get one that can pull something that big because I don't want to hurt myself.
Well, no, and where I'm going with
I'm thinking
this
like
is,
half an inch to
is that
3/4 of an inch.
something that we could buy and lend out to people.
So the town of Harvard, the agent in Harvard, Liz, got a grant to do that, and she has them at the library. I will ask her what sizes they went up to, if they just did a standard size, if they just
What's
see.
it called again?
It's called a bear is it bear puller? Puller bear.
Puller.
Puller bear. And then the other company is called Extractigator. And they're both from Canada.
Talk to the library because they've done a lot more.
Yeah, I will
with their
talk to
lending
I
stuff.
will talk to Luke too about that and see if
Yeah.
it's something, if he has money in his budget to do, or if
We can split
if
it
I
or
can
something.
split it. If I get like two of them, could he have do one there and I have one here and
Yeah.
swap if he finds that his is out and someone's looking for it, I can lend him mine type
Yeah.
of thing.
I just thought that might be
Yeah.
not a bad idea, right?
Mhm.
Get them.
Yeah, get them out so people can pull them. And like I said, this tells you, when to do that and what size. I mean, I thought it was interesting that we learned at the conference. I took this note because I thought that was the size of it. Was it on this page? Is it my other one? It is my other one. I think it was 7 feet. I think it was
7 feet tall.
7 feet tall. Was a multi-floor rose, or was it the bitters? It was something. It could be up to 7 feet tall, and you could still use one of these machines and pull it out, one of these devices, and it would be. And I'm like, 7 feet. I'm like, that's a big shrub to pull out and be able to say you can hand pull it, not have to chemically treat it.
Is it just like a lever?
It's a lever. Yeah, it grips at the bottom, and it has like a arch here and a big long pull, and you lever.
I was using to pull out dandelions.
Yeah, they sell little ones.
Or something,
Yep, they do sell little ones, but the ones for the trees on Amazon, like I said, it was like almost $300, and these two companies were like half the price. It just takes longer to get because they're from Canada.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna contact them tomorrow and see if I can get one of them here, so I can try it out at
my
Pony
house.
Park.
Oh, that Pony Park.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Just checking. You need a test space.
I figured to test there because there's a nice autumn olive there that I can pull.
Okay.
That's
You go
about
over to the conservation
4 feet
restriction on
tall.
High Street.
Yeah.
Test it there, too.
And then no,
Lots
if
of
it
places.
works out, I'm like, oh, this works good. I might be contacting you guys. I'm like, I pulled everything. Like, what do you got? Just start yanking stuff, and I'll take my wildflower seeds and just sprinkle them down.
I do want to make an appointment with you to come to my house and help me, like, say, pull that.
Okay.
that.
I can
I'm
do
not
that,
good at
and I
identifying
after
things.
attending this, it
Why
really.
not? You just sit around it and you'd be all
Yeah,
set.
well,
Everything is
after
as much
attending
chemicals
this,
as you can.
I will say, I really do, we don't do enough for invasive as far as management goes or plan, so I do want to work on that in the upcoming year, as well as whether it's beneficial to the commission or the town. I know in Stowe, they have, their agent and they have assistant agent, but their agent is, certified to spray. She has her, so I don't know if that would be something beneficial for this town, if I were to have that, or if, I asked Robert during my review if he thinks it's beneficial I have it, or if some of the DPW or parks will have it, just so we can do more as far as management of our invasives on our town, at least on our town property, to have somebody certified to at least do some sort of spraying if needed.
Do you know what is entailed, like how to get certified?
I did. I looked it up while we were there. It's just it's a like
Like a day
100.
training
It's
or
like it's a test and you get your license and there you go.
It's cheap to get the license, but
Like-
it costs like $1,000 a year for the insurance.
Yeah, which if it's a employee of the town, we're covered under the town's insurance already.
I mean, it sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, so I'm going to mention that to him on that and see if it's beneficial, because just looking at what we have, I did go to the other side of Grove Pond, over by the community garden, where they were doing the water chestnut pull, and there was a lot of bittersweet when you're walking in from Barnum Road, but when you got to the pond, there wasn't a lot there. It was more off the pond, so everything on the pond is on the Pony Park side, and there it's on the other side, so it's a matter of, and it was a lot of bittersweet.
That's the sunny side.
Somebody in the spring
Yeah.
seems to go along that area, because I was over there the other day with Benji, and just because somebody goes around and pulls the bittersweet, and then but leaves it there.
Yeah, and it's one of those things I think we'll work on. I'll work on some educational stuff to be like when we should be pulling, when we shouldn't be, because that stuff when they flower, whatever, you don't want to do that because it's just going to reseed, it's just going to spread it. So it's just a thing of education as far as that goes that we just need to work on. So we'll have that. And then real quick before I forget, because I apologize, I have to get home. if any of you have any interest in learning about how to monitor or work on work days for the pocket forests, we will be having a training on June 16th at Sandy Pond.
Monitor?
Yes, monitor them. They.
I drive by and look at it every day.
Are you
There's
teaching
a-
the class?
There's a whole technique and to monitor it to make sure that it's being watered and it's checked for invasive plants, and then we do work days, but you have to monitor them, make sure everything's growing and everything's growing right. And
June 16th?
June 16th, I think we scheduled it for 6 to 8 right now. We might change that time, but that's the tentative date right now at the Sandy Pond School. So if anybody who lives nearby that could walk over and do it, or had took a point in planting it and wants to help monitor that.
It's doing so well right now.
Which one?
The Sandy, the
Yeah, we were
schoolhouse.
able to plant it all and put all the mulch down, so it I think having that mulch down right away really
Yeah.
helped, because
All this around.
that last Friday we planted the one at the school, the amount of weeds that were already growing up in it was crazy. And knowing that we planted the one at Sandy Pond School in 2 days, in basically in a week, in 2 days, 2 Saturdays, and then covered it with thick leaves, that it's not going to get, it hopefully won't get those weeds growing up as fast.
Not as bad, yeah.
Just, that's all I
June
have.
16th.
Yep.
At the schoolhouse?
At the Sandy Pond Schoolhouse, yep.
Oh, at this
Refreshments?
one.
I can make sure there's refreshments.
That's Monday.
Mm-hmm. It's a Monday.
June
At
16th.
night.
Mm-hmm.
6?
Mm-hmm. That's the time we have right now. If it changes, I'll let you guys know.
Okay.
We do have a meeting before then, yep. Yeah, we have a meeting on the 12th. For the 12th, just real quick while you're here, we do have an application for Bly Street for the company on the corner. I will send the electronic files out to you guys either tomorrow or Tuesday. You folks that want paper copies, I can bring those down to you now after the meeting if you'd like, or you can wait till the meeting and have those. But that'll be on the agenda for the 12th.
NOI?
NOI, yep. And they have, that property is majority in the floodplain. So they're going to the planning board as well for their stormwater permit, but there is compensatory flood storage on there that Matt's reviewing to ensure that it meets all the requirements. And I had a few questions that, because the flood storage is in the floodplain, and I didn't think that could be a thing, but I did in my research reviewing definitions, and that's the definition of that flood storage. It needs to be within the same elevation of the floodplain. I was like, oh, now I know. I didn't know that before, so that makes sense. And I asked it to all the agents too, and they're like, oh, that makes sense. I was like, it doesn't sound right, but it is. I'm like, okay, I'm not the only one that didn't think it didn't sound right.
Basically, they will dig out the land underneath the flooded area.
And make it like a detention
Bigger
basin.
volume.
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
But it is. It's just one of those things. So that'll be on the next agenda along with the follow-up for Pine Street.
Anything happening on the West Main Street culvert, Nonequacious Wood?
I haven't heard anything yet on that. I think last time Dan said something we're looking at probably end of June, July, but they still have to come to us for their RDA for their temporary access. It's a lot of utilities to line up on that one, a lot.
Some unknown utilities.
There was 12 conduits just for the telephone.
Wow.
And they have to get everybody lined up and in there to move their prospective thing before they can put a shovel in the ground. So it's a lot of logistics on that one. I don't envy the contractor on that one. But that's it.
That's all the updates
That's
for
all
you?
the updates for me.
Anyone else have member updates?
I just question back. Did you find out about the post office?
I did. I walked over to it. It's not in a buffer. I didn't know that it's vegetated and cleared, but I then kept walking down to where the clearing was over on Central Ave by the
Yeah.
Passionate Care, and I just counted my foot paces, it was well over 100.
Okay,
So it's yeah, it's.
okay, just curious.
I don't know why. I think I asked upstairs to the building department if they knew why it was cleared. They go, no. I said, okay. Because yeah, it looks like someone cut for some reason and then just gave up. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
But I looked at it and I counted it off. It's well outside.
seems closer, but I don't know.
Yeah, it does. And then you start walking and you go, no, it's not.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You had something
I do.
earlier.
Did all of you watch that Zoom meeting on
Oh, yeah.
Open meeting.
Open meeting law.
Open meeting law? No. One thing that I came away with was they recommended that you have public input at the end of the meetings for a couple of different reasons. One of which is that we have scheduled work to do, and also if someone has the right to speak, they can just hijack the meeting and steer it in their direction for pretty much as long as they want.
Kind of like a filibuster.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of. Which, would it ever happen? I don't know. Probably not. But
I was gonna do that today, but then I was a little bit late.
I'm sorry.
I said I was gonna do that today, but I was a little bit
Oh.
late, so, sorry.
That's okay. We'll give you an opportunity.
Is the theory that they're less likely to do that at the end of the meeting? Or, because at that point, they're just gonna.
Well, we have all our business done.
So we can tell
and-
them to shut up
And one thing that we can do too is also limit the amount of time that they speak, but we have
Yeah.
to tell them that beforehand.
I can find my sign from the Zoom meetings,
Mm.
my 5 minutes left that.
Oh yeah, those are awesome. Those used to make people mad.
I know, it's great.
Was the open meeting discussion, was it just a town thing, or was it a state thing, or?
It was town council.
Oh, yeah, and among the things that,
Anyway, before we move on,
Yeah.
it's just that I'm just bringing it up as an example of something that we could change. We don't have to, but most towns have their public input at the end of the meeting
We'll change it.
for those
Yeah.
reasons.
Okay.
Let's do it.
I have to.
Change it on the agenda.
I have to do it now,
Should we
or I'll
vote on it?
forget.
one of the things that was interesting too is if you have a hybrid meeting, because the town has been saying if there's a technological glitch on the town's part, the meeting can continue to go on as if you're out like if you're
Mm-hmm.
on Zoom.
Yeah.
Apparently can't do that.
Oh.
You have to stop the meeting.
Yeah, you have to stop the meeting.
Interesting.
If somebody has a technical glitch at home, that's their problem.
Oh, well,
But
that's-
if the town has advertised a hearing,
As a hybrid.
yeah,
That's another good reason why we keep ours the way they are.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
That was a long 2 hours, though, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that I had. The subdivision over by the golf course.
Mhm.
Are those people, have they ever been contacted about coming in and slapping their
No,
wrists?
I will do that, and you just reminded me. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
No, apparently there was an issue with trying to record the conservation restriction. We all need to re-sign it. And I completely forgot until just now, because one of those things it's annoying me. So we have to re-sign it again, and same with the select board, because apparently the notary wasn't done right somehow. But I'll get that, and I apologize. But no, we'll get them notified.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's a good time of year to do it, actually, before they start dumping grass clippings.
Mm-hmm.
Catch that.
And one final thing, is there any money in our budget to get a coffee pot for Mark here? You can
We
have your coffee and.
We have a Keurig upstairs. I can just make him a coffee.
Take
I
turns.
started taking notes on that one.
Oh, yeah. Any other updates? Rachel, did you have anything that you wanted to add? You can come forward if you do.
Is it okay if I asked this? I just had a thought yesterday. And
Why don't you come up and join us? You can ask anything.
Okay.
You have 2 minutes.
Where's the clock? All right. So I was thinking about the water chestnut situation, and because you all didn't have the funds to pay for, I'm gonna go over 2 minutes. Sorry. To pay for the insurance, I was thinking about it, and I was like, okay, well, if I have my kayak, maybe I can go out there and grab it. But like the bittersweets, I don't quite know what to do with the water chestnuts if I pull them out. So that was a question that I had. Do they do it to the transfer station or?
So
Yeah.
they have been at, if they pull them and they come in from the Barnum Road area,
Okay.
they've been dumping them on the knotweed there. So if you know what Japanese knotweed looks like and you pull
Yes.
them, just dump them on that.
Okay.
Because I did look at that one, the pile there that they've been dumping on the knotweed, and there's something growing up there, and I was like, ooh, what is this? iNaturalist. It's jewelweed. So now we have jewelweed
Oh.
growing there instead.
That's good.
Good.
Jewelweed is a it grows with poison ivy. It's a natural anti.
It's supposed to be a little a cure for
Mm-hmm.
poison
Yeah,
ivy.
it's cute poison
Oh,
ivy. So
that's
it's a
cool.
native plant. So that's yeah.
Just the orange flowers?
Yep.
You can actually eat part of them. I'm pretty sure. And then I actually ate one once. It tasted like a walnut. So
Yeah. So
FYI.
so if you don't, if you do that, and we can't encourage you to do it.
No, I'm just saying
But if you
theoretically.
did, theoretically, if you did,
Yeah.
if you when you're all done and you want to do something with those water chestnuts, just find a big old growth of knotweed and just.
Okay. If anyone yells at me, I'll be like,
Tell us.
Mm-hmm.
When you
Yeah, it's
walk in
killed a
from
whole
the
big pile.
community garden,
I
so
don't
you're
really know
walking
what this
towards that bridge
Yeah.
that goes over to the development, and then there's a path that goes to your left. It's right around at that corner. On the side of the path away from the pond is where they've been putting.
You probably see it. It was
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
I'll-
you can
see it.
well the pile's gone. And it's just now just like
It melts down.
it's just
Interesting.
you go through that path and then you feel like you're walking through this like enchanted forest and then you get to the path and you just look to your left and it's like, oh, there's nothing here. It's just little things about this tall because they choked out all the knotweed.
The community garden is the road right where the Wendy's is.
Right.
Yeah, that's
So if
Barnum
you
Road.
just head down there.
Right over the
just
bridge.
go- yeah,
Right over
like
that
you just
bridge.
kind of, it's gonna be right in your right as
Yeah.
soon as it kind of opens up. The community garden's right
Yeah, right when you get over that bridge.
And there's a little sort of a driveway of sorts there.
Yes. Okay, wonderful. And thank you so much. And then along with that, I didn't know because they're already invasive water plants that are there.
Mhm.
Has anyone scientifically contained, you were talking about water hyacinths. So I was doing a little research to, I don't know if mitigate's the right word, but to try to rectify I guess there was a tannery or something, and then the other folks that polluted the pond. Is it possible to plant plants that might draw out those?
I don't know as far as with Grove Pond is concerned. I just know this state and the Army Corps and everything does all their tests on it because of Shepley Hills on that other corner, and some stuff from that has contaminated the area. So they do tests on that occasionally. I don't know if there is a specific aquatic plant that can help pull out arsenic.
Well, I mean, I researched a few of them, but like you said, water hyacinth is invasive. Vetiver, which actually I think is an essential oil that you can get. So that's something that you can plant, and then cayenne bag.
Yeah, it's a matter of researching these, making sure whatever I'm planting is not going to cause more damage to what's existing there.
That's what I mean. But then you all were like, let it suffocate, and I was like, well, maybe there's a different solution. You know, if folks are taking out the water chestnuts and there's already invasives going on there.
you know, like obviously I wouldn't just say, oh, let me just buy these and put them in a pond, or, you know, there would be extensive research that
Yeah,
went
there would
into-
have to be, just because that whole, does then flow into the Nashua River, so we'd have to be, careful in regards to what we put in there.
Well, yeah, of course, but it was just an idea that I had, because if we're saying like no one should go in the pond and we're just letting the water chestnuts do whatever they do, I was thinking about the critters that live in there, and I was thinking about the people that go into the kayaks to get the water chestnuts, and I was like, what if we can help everyone out in some sort of way?
So the water chestnuts are the one we don't want to let just hang there.
Yeah, those ones, yeah, they're
Yeah,
good.
because they will propagate down into the Nashua River.
Which has,
Yeah.
Nashua River has a bunch of water chestnuts in it already.
Again,
Yeah, and Groton, Pepperell,
they're pretty well cleaned out.
Remember, you can't eradicate things. You just manage.
you're managing them as best you can.
Yeah.
Except for that town, Brookline, New Hampshire,
Mhm.
that they eradicated their knotweed, was it? I know. You
Yeah.
guys taught me that last time I was
For
there.
now.
For now.
Yeah. Just like polio.
Good lord.
The
Okay.
Measles.
On that note, that's my question. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Speaking of knotweed, did the DPW do the one across from the sewer plant? That little patch that is on the street?
No.
Tell me.
I'll tell him again. Like I said, I'm gonna get him this stuff too.
You know
See if
those
they can get
little
them.
pill bugs that roll up, look like little
Roly-poly bugs?
roly-polies? We call them pill bugs, but don't they take out heavy metals? They have some really beneficial effect where they.
Oh, every little creature
Yeah.
does. Like I said, John said when we were planting the pocket forest, and you get a good coal. Oh, there was lots of grubs and stuff in there because we made them get there by putting the mushrooms and stuff
Right.
and foraging there.
You can plant peanuts. Peanuts, that's what they were used
Yeah.
to using down south, is they suck the toxins out of dirt.
Right into the peanut?
Yeah. So the
Sunflowers
pill
too.
bugs have a surprising ability to remove heavy metals from soil. So your idea of maybe there are plants that,
Yeah, I'm sure there is.
yeah.
What eats
Okay.
the pill bug?
Basically potato bugs.
Okay, the pill bugs do this by ingesting the metals and then concentrating them into small spherical deposits in their midguts. What eats pill bugs? I don't know.
Well, anyway.
Redepositing it somewhere else.
And what do
Oh.
they do in the gut? Where do they go?
Just hangs
They
out.
stay.
Yeah.
They stay in the gut, so it's important to know that they would eventually return to the soil
Yeah.
when the pill bug dies.
Yeah.
Oh,
Not
so
necessarily
yeah.
a good process.
Or something
Okay.
eats the pill bug and
Yeah.
gets all.
Spreads it somewhere else.
Yeah.
And takes the lead and puts it into the
Puts it in Gensalon.
life chain,
Yep.
right?
So how do you close the circle of because there are so many contaminants? I'm just trying to think of the future, and water is such an important resource, and we're surrounded by it.
Yep.
So we have all of these
The
things.
best thing to do is educate yourself, others, on what the issues are, and ensuring that you're not contributing more to it. The whole phosphate-free stuff, the whole knowing that, PFAS has come from all the Teflon and everything like that. Let's not use nonstick pans. It's butter works on stainless. In doing things like that is your best bet.
I just mean you can't go fishing in Sandy Pond and eat your fish.
Yeah, you can.
Yes, you can.
Oh, can you?
Oh yeah, just on Grove Pond you can't. Sandy Pond you can.
Oh, I thought there were signs that were there.
Just at Grove.
No, just
We
Grove.
do recommend not too many.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there is.
That's statewide.
It's statewide. It just says the amount of PFAS and metals and stuff, and just in fish
Yeah.
in general is there, and it's everywhere.
Yeah.
PFAS has been found in remote countries in Africa,
Yeah, the only places that don't have it just haven't tested for it yet.
Yes. So it's just one of those things. So it's if it's PFAS now, in 50 years it's going to be something that you used yesterday that you didn't know was bad. So it's just a matter of doing your best you can, educate yourself, limit the chemicals you have in your home, and trying to just if you think too hard on you, just be sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I use white vinegar for everything. So, but what was I gonna say? I just mean to care for the animals that are here now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's things that we could do or plant.
plant native plants that bees and pollinator plants as best you can.
Yeah.
I put a nice bee balm in my yard this year.
Dandelions are good for that too.
Yeah, the whole, no mow, Lo made his lawns,
Should have seen our lawn this year. Very
no
yellow.
fertilizers.
Maybe, like you were
Yep.
talking about.
Yep, just things like that, as best you can.
I just picked up a bunch of clover seeds to.
Yeah.
Nice. Anything else? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed nay. Passes unanimously.